there's a lot of paradoxes out there in the success training and success in real estate world where I feel like they need to be addressed or clarified. For example, sometimes you'll see, you'll see slow down and enjoy the journey. But then you'll see Elon Musk saying, no, you got to work 100-hour weeks. If I work 100-hour weeks and you work 40, who do you think is going to win? Right. So there's this okay, well, let's talk about those, because I don't think either one is wrong. And I don't think that, but I do think we need to talk about what they mean and what they are in context. So I think one that fits very nicely along with our conversation is there's a lot of talk about, if everybody knows the quote of, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? But then you have others where it's just like, you just have to grin and bear it, grind it, hustle out, whether you like it or not, you have to do it. Grant Cardone says, get good at what you hate first, right? Which again, as I think is there's going to be things that you have to do that you don't want to do to some regard. Then you have Gary Vaynerchuk saying, don't waste any time doing stuff that you're not passionate about. So that's the paradox I think is sometimes painted on social media. Where do you stand? How do you kind of explain that to our listeners?
That's a great question. And what comes to mind for me is I believe in the concept of who, not how. Great book, actually, by Dr. Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan, strategic coach guy, Who Not How. So the title says it all. I do think there's inevitably things you want to do that you'd rather not do. And look, I mean, this could be anything from, do I want to go sit in the rain and mud watching my 6-year-old play soccer? No, I want to go on a nice sunny day and watch him play soccer, right? But there's things you do because you should, and it's the right thing for the other person. Yeah. But in the context of your work, are there calls you have to make? Are there people you need to terminate? Of course, there's going to be those things. But I think it needs to be within a framework of something that you have true passion for, something that embraces your gifts and something that aligns with your values. I do believe that, and again, I'm a big fan of John DeMartini. He has a bunch of exercises on this. I do believe that if you outline all the stuff that you're doing in a given day, like very specifically, and figure out which of those don't, add value to you, don't monetize or cost you money for that matter, and that you just screech to a halt before you do, I'll do that later or whatever, right? Figuring out how you can hire that out and get that off on somebody else or partner with somebody that's great. You mentioned real estate. If I don't like underwriting, and I don't, I'd rather get a guy and partner with him and take 50% of everything. Let him underwrite. He loves underwriting, and let me deal with investors if that's what I like. If I like the interaction and networking, right? So I think that I think it's a little overly, woo-woo to think that you'll never do anything you don't want to do. But I believe in aspiration. I believe in the idea that why wouldn't you aspire to that? Why not try to get to a place where nothing I do is, or everything I do, I want to do. I'm so excited about doing, right? Even if you get to 97%, that's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah.
But in this day and age, man, I mean, there's so many sites with valid, viable options for you to hire a virtual assistant for dollars, right? It's not expensive to have people in your life. I don't do laundry. We hire that. We don't mow our own grass. We hire that, right? We don't clean our house. We hire that. Cooking food is the next iteration. We'll hire that. There's things in your life that you can find a way to offload. And I would just say, whenever you do approach something you don't want to do, and if it's not something you have to do, and most of it isn't, figure out who can, and then figure out the right role for somebody else, whether it's an equity partner in your business, it's somebody that you hire, it's somebody that you already have on your employee who's really good at that, and you can delegate that to them. So I think for me, it's aspire to do nothing you don't want to. I think that's the right way to put it. Understanding that that's not probably realistic, but I do think more people ask themselves, okay, I want to do this. How do I? As opposed to, I want to do this. Who do I need to connect with, or who do I need to bring into my world in order for that to happen? So I think that's the first thing, is ask yourself the question of who versus how.
Yeah. And I'll add just one thing to that. And I think that's a perfect explanation of it. And I would be back up to that. Like everybody wants to retire early and be financially free and stuff. Sometimes people are approaching that because they feel like if they're financially free, they'll never have to do anything they don't want to do again, or that all obstacles and challenges in their life will be removed. And I don't believe that. I don't think anybody truly wants a life where there's not problems to solve, because
there you go.
Happiness, according to Mark Manson, he talks about happiness comes from solving problems and overcoming obstacles and figuring out how you can no longer have to mow your lawn anymore or do stuff you don't want to do. That's, I think, where the value and this achievement and the learning and the growth comes from. So we have to be careful not to build a life where we're never having to have any challenges or stuff that we don't want to do, because I don't think there's any growth in that. But ultimately focusing on removing stuff that's not necessarily the best use of your time, and because you don't want to do it, so that you can do other things and choose the obstacles you want to try and figure out. And if that's climbing Mount Everest, if that's your choice, then you might have to have somebody mow your lawn so that you have time to go to Tibet or wherever and climb that mountain. So I think that's a perfect explanation, breakdown of that paradox. I appreciate